Hi, welcome back. This is Catholic Charities Where to Turn series. Hi, welcome back. This is Catholic Charities Where to Turn series. My name is Brent Morris, and I've joined you for the past, about 5 months or so, 6 months maybe, in financial literacy and employment services. Today we're going to be looking at what we call Financial Literacy 101. There's a booklet, and it looks like this right here. It's called Behind on Bills, Start with One Step. And this booklet is produced by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is an agency of the United States government. It's really a cool book. If anyone is interested as they see this and says, man, I'd like to get some of those for something I'm doing, just let me know. We can get you as many as you need. Okay, the first page talks about when we're buying, and I'm going to go over this booklet. I know you can't read it, don't worry about that. But it's just, I say 101 because it's a very basic way of looking at things and of kind of trying to start getting our financial house in order. Sometimes when we are wanting to do financial literacy, we're not destitute, we're not in the gutter, so to speak, but we're having trouble with money. We have trouble keeping enough money in our account. We have trouble with always running out it's always a stressor on us. We don't want it to be a stressor. We want to treat money as any other resource, and that's what we're going to talk about in our book today. Okay. When we get behind on bills, this is very important to remember, is that you're still in control. I have talked to many people that are in financial literacy classes or that come to me and they have trouble with financial literacy. And one of the things that is very common is the idea that they feel out of control, or that they feel like their bills or whatever have gotten so far out of control that they can't do anything about it anymore. And we want everyone to know that you're still in control and you're still in charge of what happens with your bills. Okay, we're going to look at 8 things, as you can see here, number 8. I probably can't see the rest of them, but 8 things that we're going to talk about today regarding financial literacy. And the booklet kind of uses animals, and so it'll be a fun way to do it. The first thing is to ask ourselves, where does my money come from? So where does your money per month or per week or however you get it, where does it come from? And for a lot of us, if you're working, it's just from your paycheck. And you get paid once or twice or 4 times a week or whatever, or a month, or whatever it is. So it's easy to track. But there also might be another check coming in, maybe from the government, and I'm not talking about stimulus checks because that's an occasional thing. That's not something that you get every month, not a consistent thing. Or maybe you're getting child support. Maybe you're getting some kind of a benefit. Maybe you're on disability or on retirement. Anything else that brings money in normally, try and track that money. Where's my money coming from? Because you'd be surprised how many people aren't even aware of what kind of money they're getting paid. I know for some of us that seems very unusual, but some people, their money is directly deposited. And so if you ask them, how much money did you get paid this week? They really don't know. So kind of keep track of take charge, kind of what we talked about before. Part of having control is to take charge of things and know what you're getting paid. Kind of keep track of that. All right, our second category to think about, and when we do in-person classes, there's a lot more detail on this. And we'll be starting in-person classes again on a limited basis. When I say limited number of slots this month. This is April. And with the pandemic not slowing down necessarily, but being a little less impactful on us because of the vaccinations and other things, we will be resuming classes on a limited basis. So in the class, this same book that we're going over today, we get a lot more information on. So the second thing is, you might have known this was coming, where does my money go? And this is something, there's a chart in here that, again, if you come to the class, you'll get, but I would also just say, if you don't have this chart at home, just take a piece of paper and write down, here's where my money went this month. And you might have to start at the beginning of the month, pardon me, and as you write it down, every day try to remember to write it down, because what happens is people vastly underestimate how much money they spend. We do an exercise in the class and I say try to think about how much money you spent this month, people almost always underestimate how much money they spent because they forgot the money they spend at Quick Trip, or they forgot the money that they spend on lottery tickets, or they forgot the money that they spend on cigarettes, or they forgot the money they spend at church, or whatever it is. They forget money. We forget things that we've spent. So keep a good track of what it is you spend, because sometimes just that alone, that kind of information, will give you a good guide of where it is you should go with financial literacy. What are some things that you're spending money on that you could not spend money on, or you can spend less money on, or that you might want to just eliminate altogether? Some of the things that we look at commonly, there's some things that are essential. You have to have a place to live. You have to have your electric on. You have to have water. You have to have gas bill, whatever it is. So those are not negotiable. You may be able to reduce those. Maybe you can weatherize your house. Maybe you can use a little bit less on your gas because you cut back a bit, whatever it is. You can impact those, but you have to pay those every month. We get stuff with your phone, with your entertainment, with eating out. Those are things that are a little bit different, that is more discretionary, as it's called. And so we'll talk about a little bit more about that. All right, the third chapter is what are all my bills and when are they due? When are they due? That's the other thing where people are pretty aware of their bills. Very unusual that we talk to somebody in our class or because someone comes in and talks to me and they don't know where their bills are. That's usually very apparent by them calling you all the time, sending you information, sending you the bill itself. So we're aware of the bills. The when are they due part we may not be aware of. And it's important for us to remember that, because if you have a bill, you get paid twice a month, let's say. That's the most common thing in America these days, to get paid twice a month. And if you get paid twice a month, you have some bills you could pay in the beginning of the month, some bills you'll pay with your second check. Know what has to be paid ahead of time in that first 15 days, and then what you can put off till later. Because there's no need to stress about something in the first 15 days if you can pay it later and you know it's not due till later. If you have a due date that's on the 17th of the month, then don't stress on it in the first 10 days. Know that you're going to have a check come in that you can pay that bill with later. So it's a good way for us to kind of de-stress over some of the stuff that goes on. All right, this next one is, what is one thing, this is a very important one, what is one thing I would like to change? You look at your budget, you find out where your money is coming from, you find out where it's going to, when your bills are due. What is one thing you'd like to change? And you notice we didn't say there was 5 things you want to change. Sometimes what happens is people say, I'm in a terrible financial situation. I have to change that. And that means I got to make changes, drastic changes right now. It's hard to make a lot of drastic changes overnight. But we can usually work on one thing. We can say, I'm going to work on my spending habits with regard to my entertainment. And we're going to say, I can reasonably afford to go out to eat once a week, or once a month, or once every 2 weeks, whatever it is. But I'm going to be honest about it and say that's what I can do. And I'm not going to be influenced by what my neighbor does, by what my relatives do. I'm going to say this is what I can do. That's part of that taking control, is to say I'm in charge of what I do. I'm not in charge of what they do. I can't worry about what someone else does. I need to be concerned with what I do. And what I'm going to do is this, and then write that down. Write it down. Why do I say write it down? Say, Brent, I don't have time to write stuff down. When we write things down, just as humans, this is not a Brent thing telling you this. This is as humans. What happens is when we write something down, we're more likely, studies have shown every time, you're more likely to do it, because now there's a visual clue, or a cue, I should say, in your head. Hey, don't forget you wrote that down. You've agreed to do it. And so go ahead and write these things down, okay? All right, the next thing to talk about is, how can I get extra money out of my situation? You see there's a bird pulling a dollar bill out of the couch. We'd love to have that happen, but that doesn't happen very often. But extra money. Sometimes people talk about having a side gig or they do something on the side. I heard a story this week about it was a real heartwarming story about a man who his mother is 84 and she's got terminal cancer. She always wanted to go see the pyramids at Giza in Egypt, and they lived in Philadelphia. And he said, she wanted the whole family to go, 14 people to go. And her son, an adult son, because she's in her 80s, said, "Well, I'm a middle school teacher at a school in Pennsylvania. I can't afford that." So he thought, what could I do? This is a perfect example of what we're talking about. What could I do to earn extra money? And he happened to make cheesesteaks. Of course, Philadelphia is famous for that, but he happened to know how to do that. So he started selling them to his family and friends. He wasn't making big money because, again, it's just his family and friends. He's making a little bit of money. But then somehow, I don't know how, it went viral, and people he didn't know would start coming up to his house, where he sold them out of his house, and say, "Here, I want to buy some of these, and I want you to get her to Giza." To get her to Giza kind of became the catchphrase. And so he figured out, someone had told him, he had able to raise enough money by doing that to take the whole family to Giza, just what she wanted, as well as a couple other people. So it was by figuring out what is it I can do that I do well, that I could possibly monetize. I can make some money on it. Maybe you make food like he did. Maybe you're a good singer. Maybe you're someone who likes to sit with people. You're good talking with elderly folks, whatever it is. Think about what it is and how you can make some money on that. I knew a lady who had come to one of our classes who had young children, so she had to be at home. But during the evening, she would go out and get some of the electric scooters, and you'd have to figure out what the regulation is on this. She had done this, that are around town, around the plaza, and they have to be charged at night. So she would charge them at her home at night, and the company would pay her for doing so. So it was something that she didn't have to put a lot of energy in. She had to go get the scooters and then put them back out in the morning, but she could do that and still work it into her schedule. So think about things that you might be able to do to improve your income. All right, next, how do I make tough choices? How do I make tough choices in tight months? Well, it's not uncommon for us to get to a certain place in a month where it's just difficult for us. And what we would advise is to pay a little bit on each bill. Even if you can only spend $10 or $5 on a bill, send something in. And they might say, "Hey, listen, this is nothing. It's a $5," but they'll apply it to your bill. And that lets them know that at least you're not trying to avoid paying. You're at least going to be in better standing than if you paid nothing. Okay? The next thing is, how do I respond to a debt collector? Very important to know that debt collectors have rules they're supposed to go by. They don't always do it, but there are rules for them to go by. A debt collector, I want to read some of these because this is very important, I think. By law, cannot call repeatedly to harass or abuse you, use obscene language, make a false or misleading statement about what you owe, publish your name for not paying a debt, which they may threaten you with, lie to you, and if debt collectors harass, they may be violating the law. Now, if you need to submit a complaint, and I would encourage you, if you have debt collectors been calling, doing these very things I talked about, file a complaint. And that complaint goes to cfpb.gov/complaint. COMPLAINT. Again, it's CFPB, like Charlie Fox, Panda Bear, .gov, Gomer Olive Vector, I don't know what the actual words are, /complaint, COMPLAINT. If someone's using these tactics with you, you really must let somebody know who has some influence with them, okay? So those are things that debt collectors cannot do. We've come to the end of our time. I would encourage you to contact me if you want to about more information about this. Again, my name is Brent Morris, Catholic Charities. My email address is bmorris@ccharities.com. Real simple. BMORRIS@ccharities.com. All right, financial literacy begins with us. It begins with us knowing that we have control of our lives. And even if our debts are higher than we've ever wanted them to be, even if people are calling us and saying, hey, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, we're still in charge. And if you're having trouble with that, something that you just need help with, call us, send us an email, or just start taking advantage of the things we're talking about. All right, we'll see you again next week.